Our hope and prayer for this podcast is that our content will meet you right where you are and leave a spark that only God can fan based on His Word. We will give credit where credit is due when we remember. Most of our content is based on our life experiences and training, not to be substituted for the Word of God in your life.
Welcome to the Connected Heart Podcast. We are two Christian women
Here to laugh, have some fun, and engage in authentic conversations that lean into the power of connecting with God.
because thinking about God and thinking with God are not the same things.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Welcome back. We're so glad you joined us on the Connected Heart podcast. Here we are, season 2, episode 3. Awesome. What are we going to
There's
talk
the
about
test.
today?
Okay. Today, my friend, we are going to talk about, we have started our class, which is going great, and living in your identity.
Yes.
And so today's subject is really, it's emotions versus decisions.
Oh,
So
Okay.
kind of deep. Look at us getting so deep.
getting so
But
deep.
before we get deep, let's talk. We'll do morning walk again. Like I'm ready
Yes.
for morning walk.
Yeah.
Okay. It was a big morning walk because it's been cold, but I went ahead and went out, bundled up and went out.
Persevered.
I persevered, but I was really moving because I wanted it to be over. So I was listening to another podcast and I was just busy, like trying to get through the cold to get home.
Okay.
And so I was buzzing around. It was a busy morning and a busy day. So I got home around 4:00 that day.
Oh, wow. It was a busy day.
It was a busy day.
From the morning walk to 4 o'clock.
Yes, 4:00 in the afternoon. It was like nonstop.
Oh.
So I walk in the kitchen and I look over and there's my toast in the toaster from breakfast. I was like, wow. I was on the walk, man. I was so busy. I found my breakfast later.
So busy.
So busy, way too busy.
Yes.
Way too busy.
Apparently, if you didn't even stop for your toast, that was a little
No.
busy.
But I had a feel, I was listening to another podcast and I was just talking to God, not listening to a word.
Maybe you could count that as praying and fasting.
This is why I like you. You can turn it around. I was like, okay. Yeah. But have you ever had that happen where you
yes.
look and you're like, okay, I was so disconnected.
Yes. Yes. For me, it's usually not toast. It's usually that second cup of coffee that I poured.
Oh.
And I walk back out in the kitchen at 4 in the afternoon and go,
Fun.
oh, I never drank that
coffee.
Oh, I would have enjoyed that coffee
know.
too.
But I find it quite alarming that I missed food. I mean, that's, I'm not a big faster. I should be, but I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, so my morning walk was very vivacious.
There you go.
But probably missed a lot.
Invigorating.
That God might have had for me. But he reminded me when I saw the toast.
There you
go. Yeah. So,
there you go.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's our favorite thing.
It's been fun around our house.
Has it?
Since heart surgery, Larry and I have decided we're making some life changes. And I'm not a New Year's resolution person. So it wasn't because of the new year starting that we made these decisions. It truly was because of health and wellness and wanting to continue what he'd started in his rehab and all that stuff, right? So we consulted a nutritionist.
Ooh.
Right. She's amazing. And surprisingly learned that we really undereat protein at our house.
Oh.
But we eat protein all the time. But when she told me how much protein we should each be eating every day, I was like, oh, and she's not like trying to make us be on keto or anything. So, but I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes a huge difference,
Yeah.
right? And then we also got a personal trainer.
Wow, you're talking serious.
I am, and we joined a gym. I've never been a member of a gym in my entire life. So this has been fun and interesting,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Good.
And just the trainer tried to kill us, but we still like him. It's
Oh,
okay. It's
yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know my body could stretch as much as he stretched it.
I
Yeah.
know. It's
I'm
like those physical therapists. They
yeah.
go, "Oh,
Yeah, just a
keep
little
going, a
more.
little bit
Yeah, a
more."
little
Yeah.
bit more.
Ooh.
But anyway, so it's really
Oh,
kind of prompted my curious question of the day,
okay. Which
right?
is?
Because knowing that you have to eat so much protein, I said, "Well, how in the world do you get all that in?" And she said, "Well, a great way to get it in is by eating beans or legumes." And this February is a great month. I mean, it is a great month.
Oh, soup.
It's my birthday month.
Okay. Yeah.
It's Valentine's Day. It's rodeo time in Texas.
Yeah.
In San Antonio. But anyway, she said beans. Beans is a great way to get it in. So I got to thinking, being that it's Valentine's and my birthday this month,
Yes.
and knowing that chocolate comes from
A
a cocoa
bean.
bean,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just curious why we can't count that as protein.
Did she say you can't count it as protein?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
But I mean, my logic's pretty,
Yeah, that
it's
is a good
improving
curious.
because of Sudoku, but
Yeah. Okay. All right.
yeah,
Well,
it is a curious question though.
that is a very curious question.
And I guess the follow-on question was, why can't we count coffee as protein? Because it's from a bean too.
So she really like you got to eat the bean.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I'm not a
That's
big
kinda
bean eater either.
I was just gonna say, let me know how that goes.
Yeah, no.
If you're since we're gonna throw your word of the year, if you're gonna engage with the beans, let me know how you're engaging with the beans.
And you'd rather meet virtually. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And that because I'm gonna look at things differently.
Yeah.
So love
Hey,
it.
now are you a rodeo girl?
I love to go to the rodeo.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay.
And I gamble at the rodeo, just so you know.
Well, have you ever gone and seen the cutting horses?
No.
Do you even know what a cutting horse is?
That would be no.
Okay. So a cutting horse is this horse that can help isolate a single cow out of a herd so that like they can brand it or maybe give it medicine or whatever, right? These cutting horses are amazing. I love the rodeo and I love to go watch the cutting horses. And they get down almost like a dog, and they're nose to nose with that calf, just moving back and forth, and they won't let it get to the left or the right as the rest of the herd clears out. It's amazing. So if you've never done it,
I've
go
gotta check
check it out.
the cutting
They're in a
horses.
different
Yeah.
arena than the main arena.
Oh, okay,
But
good
they
to
are
know.
so worth going to
Okay,
see
that's
if
good
you've
to
never
know.
done that. And
No.
listeners, if you've never done that,
Gotta go see a cutting
go
horse.
see a cutting horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have girlfriends that I go with, and we have $1 that we pass back and forth if the bull riders make it to 8 seconds. So if you're holding the dollar and your guy stays on for 8 seconds, you get to keep the dollar.
Oh,
If he's off in 2, you pass it down.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a big gambler.
Big, heavy gambler.
Yes.
I'm sure that you're gonna, counsel me on getting some help with that.
Probably not.
So I know, I love it. Well, so we've been talking about forgiveness.
Yes. Big topic.
Big, big topic.
Yes.
And with all the discussion over forgiveness, we talked a lot because you think of forgiveness as an emotion, but it's really not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really an action, right?
Yeah.
It's a choice.
Well, there was the big epiphany.
Yeah.
It is a choice.
It's a choice.
but I think, for me, for many years, forgiveness was an emotion,
Ah.
and I would go up and down with it. It was conditional.
Mm. And it goes back to June Hunt's book
Yeah,
and the question in that book.
right.
How do you forgive when you don't feel like
Forgiving,
forgiving?
right. But it's really not an emotion, it's a decision,
Yes.
which is kind of tough. I
Yes.
find it tough.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And one of the ways I've described that in the past to some of my coaching clients is I talked about a frozen, if you've ever been up north where the rivers freeze
okay.
and people can ice skate on them. I want you to envision folks ice skating away on the river of forgiveness. I've forgiven this situation
Yeah.
and I am ice skating on this ice. And then those emotions that are already under the surface
Oh.
begin to get a little hot and bubble up and make that ice a little thin in places, right? So we're in danger of, if we give in to those emotions,
Yes.
of just cracking through that ice and going into that icy cold water.
Ooh.
And it's that when we can finally figure out how to get those emotions in alignment with the decision, then we know we've really worked through those stages that we talked about of
Mhm.
forgiveness.
Wow.
You know what I love about the format of the class this time? I want to bring us to the class a minute. I love that we're not trying to provide the answers,
Yeah.
that we're trying to host the discussion,
Yes.
right? And learn from one another.
Right. That's what I always love about these classes because you learn so much from other people
Yes.
because our journeys are all different, and although it's the same subject, there's a lot of difference, and how God uses that for another breakthrough or epiphany or God moment or God wink, that it's it's not just emotion.
Hmm.
Where there was a time in my walk where I totally, again, it would have all been emotion,
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So, but I love that. The river, yeah, because
Yeah.
the emotions, but it's the decision. Are you gonna
Hmm.
crack through the ice?
Right. Are you going to let those emotions bubble up so much to weaken that ice? Or are you just going to keep skating, right?
Right.
And again, that's the beginning of forgiveness. That's not true forgiveness. Once we've truly gotten there, the emotions will go away. You know, one of the emotions that really have struggled with during periods of unforgiveness is anger.
Mm, yeah, might be. I always say maybe the number one emotion
Oh,
because, again, did Jesus have some anger?
hmm,
Righteous anger. He did.
he did.
Yeah.
But I've always struggled with that idea too. What is righteous anger? I
Well,
mean, obviously, we can read the account of what
happened.
happened. I don't know if I suppose I have experienced righteous anger, but I've had a lot of misplaced anger. Let's just throw it out there, right?
Wow, Sandy, that I'm so sorry for you because that was just you. Just you
Yes,
would deal
just
with
me. No one
just
else has
you.
ever dealt
But
with
no,
anger.
nobody's
No,
dealing with anger
right.
because yeah,
Isn't
again,
it weird though how it'll catch you by surprise? Like you'll be walking around the house and sometimes we can chalk it up to hangry or something else. But like even this week, like I was walking around and I don't even remember what happened. It wasn't anything major, but I began to feel irritated and angry.
mhm,
And when my husband asked me what was going on, I really didn't know. I
yeah,
really couldn't have told you what the source of that was in that moment. And yet I realized I am behaving that way. What what needs to happen here for me to not be experiencing that, right? Or
right.
maybe I need to stop and allow myself to experience it so that I can move through it.
Well, and that comes back to a decision.
Mm, for sure.
Now, when I just let her fly, which is never good, I don't feel better after.
No,
You
I
know,
feel worse.
where people go, "Oh, you just vent, you get it out, you're gonna feel so much better."
Oh, no. Then I begin to feel guilty
Well,
and shame for maybe shame more than guilt. I feel shame for the way I behaved
yeah,
when my
yeah,
mouth just overfloweth.
yeah, and then where does it circle back around to? Forgiveness. I call it collateral damage when that happens.
Ah,
There's always collateral damage that I have to go back and clean up,
yes.
and that's where we come back around for forgiveness. So, you know, trying to make a decision not to do that anymore. And I've become more attuned to how my body and brain reacts.
Mm, mhm.
So I now try to have some things in order so I know what to do instead of just exploding.
Right, and I mean, we think to back to child rearing, right? Isn't that one of the main things we teach children is how to regulate emotion
Right.
and some skill sets to build and to tap into when their emotion begins to take over. So I've heard my son who has foster children say, "Well, what are some of the things you can do when you're feeling this feeling?" Right, and he'll walk them through the options
Yeah. Oh,
one more time, reminding them of the options that that are in their toolbox. And yet, sometimes we don't use those for ourselves.
true, true. I have a new one that my little granddaughter's been doing, and I thought, "Oh, this is a good one." She freezes everybody. Like, if she's in a situation where she's getting angry,
Oh,
she just goes like this, points
oh,
her finger to freeze you.
oh, like Elsa.
Yeah, like Elsa. Like, "I'm
Okay.
just gonna freeze you." So, I first of all think it's pretty funny, but then I think like, "Okay, you can pause."
Right.
You know, it's not a permanent freeze. You could pause
Right.
and then come back to a decision. Like, I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna make a decision here.
Sure. I'm
So,
wondering if she's pointing that at the wrong sort. Like, I'm going to freeze me.
you're gonna freeze you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm going to
she's
freeze
definitely
me.
freezing the people that are making her angry.
You are making me mad,
You are
Gigi.
making me mad. You are frozen.
And you
So,
are frozen, and you are frozen.
yeah,
Yes, I can see that working.
I know.
Not
So,
very well for me, though.
no, no, but I was like, I
I
still
love it.
yeah, we have to deal with this. But I do find it interesting again on balancing the emotions and the decisions.
Mhm. Right. And we talked about in our first set of Bible study that our thoughts lead to that create our feelings, which drive our action or our inaction, right? And
Mhm.
so it's that whole thing. Which one is coming up first? Well, for the thinker, maybe the thought comes first. For the feeler, maybe the feeling comes first.
Yeah,
And so chasing that back and saying, okay, what's the story in my head right now that's creating this emotion in me?
right.
And by the way, I didn't do that the other day when I was walking around and feeling that irritation, and that would be one of my strategies now if I were to think about it. As I began to feel the emotion, to have stopped in that moment and said, "Okay, what's the story in your head right now?" Because in hindsight, I can go, "Well, I felt rushed about several things,
Mhm.
and I was beginning to feel overwhelmed, and that was making me feel a little angry that I needed to get these things done." And at that time, I mean, um, there were just a lot of things I hadn't finished.
Yeah.
I'd started them, but I hadn't quite finished them, and it was like all these things were dangling
Yes.
and needed to be taken care of.
Yes. Well, I seem to go there when I have no control.
Ah,
And I'm a real feeler. And so, but um, I like to control things. I've been working on this for years. I'm sure I'm healed. But
and it would be different if you didn't have to control. Just bringing your word up.
okay, thank you. It would be different. How would your life be different, Martha, if you weren't trying to control? Yeah.
Hmm.
I keep thinking people don't know how far I've come. That's it. Only God knows how far I've come.
Well, kind of like the anger issue, you're really the only one that deals with the control issue.
Yes, I
Yeah,
know.
you're the only woman in the world
I know.
that
I
deals with
know.
that,
I
right?
know. So,
No, seriously. We are going to get in our future
sessions.
sessions, well, not only in the podcast but also in our Bible study. We're going to be talking a little bit more about this idea of emotions and what do we do with them? What are our strategies? And
Mhm.
is emotion okay? You know,
Yep.
we're going to talk about that
Yes.
and kind of kick that around
Right.
because Jesus felt emotion. You talked about his anger.
Mhm.
You also think about his grief that he had when his friend Lazarus died and he wept.
Right.
So Jesus had emotion.
He did
He did
and does.
and
That's the
does.
good part. He does
Yes.
have emotion and
Yes.
allows us. So that's the plan that we're bringing all this from the class
Mhm.
to do some more episodes of the podcast, and hope that you all will join us as we take some deep dives into some of these emotions that we hope that we leave you with some things to think about.
Well, should we leave him with a food for thought question?
I'm thinking we should.
All right. So I'm wondering, what emotion do you often do battle with? And what strategy might you have the next time you're in the battle?
And please, you can drop this in the comments. We
Mhm.
do check our comments, and we would love to talk about it. We'd love
Absolutely.
to talk about it. We'd love to engage with you, and just if you're not here or online, we'd still love to engage with you. So please, just drop it in the comments. Also, if you could hit subscribe, that would really help us do more episodes, which we're excited about. And
Absolutely. And
so,
thanks for joining us today.
yes.